Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, and today's video is going to be a get ready with me in which I chat to you about two different topics while I'm getting ready to film some other videos today. I am going to talk to you about makeup tools, brushes, sponges, things I like to use to apply my makeup. Usually when I do this type of video, the focus is very much on the products that I'm using and not so much on the tools that I'm using. So today I wanted to shift that focus towards more makeup brushes and sponges and that. So anything that I'm using today to put my makeup on my face, and I'm trying to include most of my favorites here so that you have an idea of what is in there. There is one particular product that I'd like to focus on today, and that is the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Vault. This is of course a very controversial product, so I'm not going to say anything too much about my thoughts on this just yet, but I thought I could use that for today's eye look. So I'll come back to the palette when I've done most of my other makeups and we get to the eye look. So let's just get into the rest of these products and all of this fun stuff that I want to talk to you about. So my first step in my makeup routine is to apply primer. I'm currently using this up, but I like applying primer with a brush. I started doing it with my fingers, but I just don't really like the feel of that. And I like very liquidy, very non-silicone, like not very thick primers to begin with. And then applying it with a brush like this. This is like a duo fiber brush. This is the Real Techniques Complexion Blender brush. And this is really nice to buff in your primer, I find. It has a little like little hollow in the middle where you can put the product and then you can apply it to your face. So that's what I'm going to be doing with the Smashbox Primerizer. And then we're moving on to foundation. I go back and forth between brushes and sponges. One of my favorite brushes to apply foundation with, I don't have here right now, I don't think. But I really like the Zoeva like buffer brush, and I also really like the Sigma is it the F80 or the F82? I never know. The F82, so the rounded kabuki. Now I'm really enjoying using a sponge for applying my foundation. This is the Primark sponge. I already wet this, and this is a fresh one that I've just cleaned. I really like the Primark sponge for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's only €2 for a 2-pack. You do get a different sponge in the 2-pack, but again, for €2, I think that's not too bad. They wash pretty well, and I like how they become softer and squishier the more you use them. The more you clean and use these sponges, the more you wet them, the more flexible they will become. When you first start using them, they feel a bit like a brick. But as you sort of mold them and try to use them more, these are just really nice sponges. They're a little bit bigger than a beauty blender, which I've also used. And I've also used the Real Techniques one. I've used one by Essence. I've got a couple of other sponges for me to try as well. But so far, this is my favorite. And it's cheap and cheerful, and it gets the job done. Because it's bigger, I find it's quicker than the Beauty Blender, and it still has a pointy edge, so you can still get in the hollows next to your nose and all that. So I'm just going to be applying my Chanel foundation, and this is running out! For concealer, I'm going to be using my Maybelline Age Rewind. I just did a review on this, and I just don't really like the packaging, but again, I'm going to use the same sponge to apply it. For powder, I have a little bit of a, well, since the weather is still like semi-warm, it's not very warm anymore, but what I like to do with powders in the summertime is that I just apply them with a flat top kabuki like this one. This is the Sigma F80. And then if I feel I have too much powder on my face, I will usually knock it off with the F25 by Sigma. So this is a nice little combo for powder. I'm currently still in a stage that I don't need to knock off any excess, that it looks very dry. I'm a little bit more oily in the summer and like transitional weather than I am in the dead of winter. So this is definitely a combo that I love using. If I feel like I've over powdered, then it's easy to use this brush to take some off. Right now, I just really like using this. Then for brows, I don't need any tools, so I'm quickly going to do those. So that's the brows done. I said I don't use any tools for my brows, but that's because I'm currently using a pencil and like a brow gel. What I sometimes do if I use a pomade, I like using this very flimsy Essence brush. This is very flimsy, it has a lot of give, but it's very fine as well, so it's very nice to draw on lines with a pomade. And then if I use a brow powder, I like this little Real Techniques brush. This is officially an eyeliner brush, but I found it a little bit too thick and a little bit too sturdy for eyeliner. It kind of hurt my eye when I got it very close to my lash line, but I find this is the perfect width and length to really sort of go into my brows and do my brows with that. So if I use a powder or if I use a pomade, I like using angle brushes for that mostly. So we're moving on to the rest of my face, and my first step is bronzer. I'm using one by Urban Decay at the moment, and this is a stipple brush. I used to have one by Sigma, but it fell apart, and when I wanted to go out and repurchase, I thought it was a little bit expensive, so I decided to go for a crown brush, and this is the C406 Large Duo Face, and these duo fiber brushes are so perfect for applying bronzer, because you can never overdo it. So that's bronzer done. I'm currently not really into contouring, but if I were to apply contour, I really like the e.l.f. Small Stipple brush for that. Again, for the same reason as why I like a stipple brush for bronzer. It just never really overdoes it, and you can easily blend everything out, and you don't get any harsh lines. And this is a nice small one, so it fits nicely in the contours of my cheek. My next step is going to be highlight, and I actually have, I think, a few highlight options in here. This used to be my favorite brush. This is the Zoeva 105 Luxe Highlight. It's like a little bit poofy, and it kind of covers a larger area. So I think this is better for like if you want to do like work on your shoulders or your collarbone. I was looking for something a little bit more targeted. So that's why over the summer I bought some new brushes, and I fell in love with this. This is the Sigma Cheekbone Highlighter F03. It's really nice and small, and it really can do a very nice targeted cheek highlight. So that's what we're going to do now. And then for blush, I am super duper boring. I'm using a Kiko blush, and I'm using the same blush brush that I've used for years. This is the Real Technique blush. This changed my life when it came to blush brushes. I haven't tried anything else since. I love how it's big, round, and fluffy. So then we're moving on to eyes, and I always double prime my eyelids because I like having an eye primer that actually makes my shadows stay put, so nothing creases, but I also like using another one to make sure that nothing is, like that everything shows up bright enough. I use a MAC paint pot for this, and I use my fingers to apply this, so no tools necessary here. And then to set my paint pot, because I think it's a little too tacky for my taste, and I use a fluffy Hema brush. I think you can no longer get these, unfortunately, but this is a Dutch brand, like a Dutch store. They sell everything from clothes, but also makeup. And they used to sell these really nice blending brushes, and I use one of these to set that primer with. Right, so now we're going to get to the eyes, and I think I'm going to address the elephant in the room first. This is the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Vault. This, of course, had a lot of drama. Now, you need to know one thing about me before we go into this, and that's that I've never really truly tried anything by Morphe. And it's not because I don't like them, it's just that I find them a very overwhelming brand, and I never really knew where to start. I bought the 12NB palette to try it. I didn't like that. And I also dabbled around with some, like one of their 35 pan palettes that a friend of mine has when I did her makeup ones. But other than that, I never tried any of the infamous Morphe eyeshadows, the 35O, the 02, the Jaclyn Hill original palette, the second one that she came out with. Like, I haven't tried any of that. So going into this, the reason why I wanted to get it is because you get 4 different palettes, and altogether they're 40 shades. It's just that 35 shades in a palette is just too much for me. I can't deal with that. So I thought that this would be perfect, and because you get some more unique shades in here as well, I feel that Morphe is really good at like doing 35 different shades of brown in their palettes, which doesn't really appeal to me. I like more distinct colors, and I thought that this color scheme and these palettes really appeal to me. So the one that appealed to me the least is this one. This is Ring the Alarm, and it's all warm tones. This is something we've seen so many brands do. This is also the palette that most people think is pretty okay in terms of these shadows. I haven't heard lots of people complaining about this. It's nice. I've played around with all of these palettes before, by the way. This is not the first time I'm using them. I've made looks with every single one of these palettes already. Each palette has 1 or 2 shades that are a bit either really powdery or chalky or don't blend well, but overall in every single one of these palettes I have been able to make very workable looks. So yeah, that being said, so far I'm pretty impressed with these palettes and I like them. My favorite has to be Armed and Gorgeous, which is also why I was very much drawn to these palettes. It's again warm tones. Ooh. It's again warm tones, but here you get some more greens and some mustards, and those are the kind of warm tones that I really like. I like how you get some gold shades. This shade right here, Classified, has like a gold with like a green undertone to it, which I really prefer. Everybody is saying that Top Secret isn't a great shadow. I already played around with it and it worked fine for me. So I'm not sure what everybody's deal is, but to me, these palettes are pretty okay. Then my favorite has to be Bling Boss, which is the purple plum one. As you can see here, this is what it looks like. I think the shade that sort of disappointed me the most is like this bright purple. I feel like bright purple is just something that a lot of brands struggle with. I was very impressed with Berry Treasure here, which is just really, really stunning. The sparkle in it doesn't really translate to the eye, but I personally don't mind that. I think that if you blend this on the lower lash line or apply it as a liner and make sure it's very concentrated, you will still get a little bit of that sparkle. I think the shimmers in here are really nice. These two shades, these two mattes here, are also not the best, but you can still make them work. So I'm gonna have to see how I'm going to incorporate it in the look that I want to do for you today. And then last but not least, we have the Dark Magic palette. I also really like this. It is a little bit dark for my taste, which is why it's not my favorite, but it also has some really nice greens. And that's really what I like about it. The green here, the teal, this one, and that one. That's what I live for when I look at this palette. And I think that if you combine all of them together, that is when you have the most stunning results. So I wouldn't treat these as separate palettes. I treat this as if I'm holding a 40 pan eyeshadow palette and I'm going to go back and forth between the palettes and start applying different shades from each one of these. Because I think, for instance, Bling Boss has the best shimmers and Ring the Alarm has some great transition shades, and Armed and Gorgeous and Dark Magic has some really fun greens, so I definitely want to play around with that. So that's what we're going to do today, I think, for the eye look. That being said, with eyes, we also really get into the brush territory of this video. With my face brushes, I do not tend to change things up as much. I just go for the same ones that I'm always using. With eye brushes, I have a couple of like favorites that I always reach for, no matter the eye look that I do, it seems. And that's a MAC 217. I use that in my crease mostly. I like blending things out with the Zoeva Luxe Defined Crease. This is very light and fluffy, and I really like using this to really apply a transition shade. I use this Sephora Smudger brush on my lower lash line. I use an Essence Smokey eye brush to blend out my lower lash line. And then for the lid, I really only use one thing consistently, and it's this really old Sigma brush. I think it's like the E55. I think that's like the name is rubbed off, so I don't remember exactly. But the E55 is just great for applying shadow all over the lid. And then I use a Sigma E30 for the inner corner, and like I really like applying a shade right here in that inner third of my lower lash line. So those 6 brushes I use every single day. Now, if I want to do a little bit something more special, something like a cut crease or a halo eye or something a bit more smoky, I have a couple of other brushes that I like to go for. I really like this Sonia Kashuk brush. This is the 203 to apply a light cream shade on my brow bone. Now, if I want to do something a bit more smoky, if I want to really like blow out the outer V or anything like that, I use the Zoeva Petite crease. And then if I want to do something like a halo eye or a cut crease, I like using a concealer to like block part of my shadow out. For that part to apply cream, I use the Zoeva Cream Shader 233 brush. Then if I want to do something a little bit more detailed, for instance with a halo eye, I really like pressing down the shadow in my corners. And for that, I like the Sonia Kashuk 106 brush. This is just a really nice packing brush. And then for doing more detailed work, I like using smaller and smaller brushes. So for instance, applying that really nice pop of brightness on the center of the lid, I use this Detail Shader by Zoeva. So those are the brushes I use the most, and I'm going to show you as much of them in action as possible. I am going to fast forward to it because else we're just going to be here for hours. So I don't want to put you through that. So I'm going to do an eye look using the Morphe Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palettes and as many of these brushes as possible. So yeah, I took the liberty of quickly finishing off my makeup. I applied mascara, put on a lipstick, which is by Beauty's Pepper, in case you're wondering. But the real star of the show today is, of course, the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Vault. As you might have been able to tell, these aren't the smoothest, most buttery eyeshadows I have ever worked with. Are these the best shadows I ever worked with? No, I don't. No, I don't think so. But are these workable shadows that you can make very great looks with? Yes, I think you can. A lot of people were comparing this to the original Jaclyn Hill palette, which I don't have the one that was released last year, so I cannot make that comparison because I thought too many of the shades were too similar, and I feel that this is something that has not that downside to it. This has 40 unique shades in it, which I personally love. A lot of these shades I don't have anywhere else in my collection. I feel that you can use each one of these palettes separately as an individual palette, or you can also mix and match, and as I did today for this eye look, put them together and make a new eye look like this. I just think that a lot of the people who were reviewing this when this first launched weren't giving it enough of a chance. That's just my personal opinion. You can still not like these shadows. That's absolutely fine. I just went into this completely blank. I had barely tried Morphe eyeshadows before, and what I had tried I didn't like, and I have to say that I quite like this. I already made looks with each individual palette before sitting down and filming this video, so I had an idea of which shadows would pair well together. There are a couple of shadows that are a bit more powdery and that take a little bit more time to work with, but as you probably saw, when I went in with my MAC 207 and I took the time to build up that crease color, it actually worked pretty well. Some of these shades are definitely shades that you need to build up and that you cannot just apply and boom, it's there, which I think a lot of people nowadays just got used to. I am of the let's build up a shadow as you go along camp. I really like building up an eye look, going back in, applying a little bit more. Oh, the shimmer in that shade kind of disappeared. Oh, I go back in. That is absolutely no problem to me. In fact, that's how I've been doing my makeup ever since I started doing makeup. So that's why I think you need to be able to work with these shadows and then they're fine. That's pretty much my personal opinion. I can work with them just fine. I like this palette and that's why I wanted to do this look for you today. So I really hope you enjoy watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and I would very much like it if you could subscribe to my channel because I make videos twice a week on Thursday and Sunday, 5 a.m. Central European time. That's when I upload new videos. So I hope to see you in my next video and I hope you have a great day. Bye!